particularly interested in this notion of social capital and its relationship to civic well-being. If you know the work of Robert Putnam, he's the guy who wrote Bowling Alone, came out in 2000. Tremendous concern about Americans losing the presence of civic life and all the benefits that come with civic life. Hence the title Bowling Alone. That we're becoming siloed, more individualistic, doing things more and more on our own, losing that sense of connectedness and all the benefits that come with that. So our benefactor, the Koozies, and the man who started the Business Ethics Center, now the Koozie Ethics Initiative, and unfortunately no longer with us, Barry Castro, we're both very interested in how you describe and define social capital, and then where does it come from, how do you create it, how do you sustain it, and what difference does it make? So I'll just read the one at the bottom, the Putnam one. The informal ties to family, friends, neighbors, and acquaintances, involvement in civic associations, religious institutions, volunteer activities, and so on. Social capital has repeatedly been shown to be a strong predictor of well-being, both for individuals and communities. They have powerful effects on health, happiness, educational, and economic success. And I'm going to show you a couple more slides that bear this out, and what the difference is between having it and not having it. Grand Rapids has had this to a much higher degree than many other cities in its history. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, as we'll get into. You should never talk about race and politics. Well, I'm going to talk about race and religion. It's even worse. But it makes a difference in this community in terms of who is in these networks and who isn't, and the effects that they have. It's not part of this presentation, but as we've been doing the research, there's a program in which you can actually go into Excel, plug in, say, board members from all the, we did this with all the board members in Grand Rapids or West Michigan who were on the boards of nonprofits with $10 million or more in assets. And it's just, it's just this dark web. The interconnectedness, the social capital in Grand Rapids is just remarkable. And everybody knows everybody. Lots of different levels. Again, double-edged sword, which is, you end up with having maybe just a few people control too many things, but on the other hand, they're held accountable by all these other folks that they know. We compare and contrast that with Flint, because again, 70 years ago, people would have said, well, Flint would have been the place to be, not Grand Rapids, if you really wanted to secure your future. And it's this very thin line that connects a couple of the Mott foundations with one poor lone little GM guy over here, and then one of the healthcare organizations. And that's about it. And that's about all that's left. And as we're doing qualitative interviews in Grand Rapids, talking to people in positions of power and leadership here, as well as in Flint, that really became apparent. That here, it's you should talk to, you should talk to, you should talk to. And in Flint, it's like, well, did you talk to the Mott Foundation? Yeah, we talked to the Mott Foundation. More educated parents have broader social networks. It's a little bit fuzzy, I'm sorry, but this is nationwide, not Grand Rapids. But Grand Rapids is reflected in this. It's very close. And that is, who do you know? If your parents are educated, it's striking, right? The greatest gap is with whether you know a professor or not. We can argue about whether knowing a professor makes any real difference in anybody's life or not. But it's huge. The only score there in which the high school or less population outscores the group with higher education is knowing janitors. And Ian Putnam's new book called Our Kids, which came out last year, I highly recommend it to you. It's become, in some ways, for me, my best guide to this particular election cycle. He says, his book is on Our Kids, the American Dream in Crisis. And he's looking at information like this. He said, we're at the point where about 30% of the American population, and maybe an even higher percentage of our youth, young Americans, are at the point where there's probably very little to no social mobility whatsoever for them because of the factors arrayed against them or decisions that their parents have made. He said the American dream is alive and well. It happens to be alive and well in Canada. It's alive and well in parts of Northern Europe, which now outscore us in terms of social mobility. We get locked into these places. Part of it has to do with social capital. Who do you know? Who can refer to you? Who can be a mentor to you? Who can recommend things to you? Who can be an example for you? Flint kids have a wider range of informal mentors. Not surprising, but again, the contrasts are stark there. Any non-family member, almost 70% for the kids with somebody versus less than 40%. And it makes a huge difference in social mobility. We'll talk about this in terms of Flint and Grand Rapids when we do the numbers on those, because you see ways in which Grand Rapids still has all these possibilities. We're in a growth cycle. People want to come here and live here, but it also breaks down, as we've been getting into the weeds on this, between people, just for emphasis, people who look like me and more particularly people who look like my daughters versus the 20% of the population of Grand Rapids that's African American or the 16% and growing percentage that's Hispanic. Social trust by parents' education, 12th graders, 1976 to 2011. As you can see, we're losing social trust more and more altogether. Both are on a downward trend, but among those who have less education, they're at the point where the kind of cynicism and despair about ever moving out of the cycle of poverty or lack of education, whatever it might be, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I do think this also helps, just personal opinion and what others who have read it, explain the rise of certain ideas that might be attractive. If you feel like you have been lost, no ownership whatsoever anymore in the country, there are maybe a number of other ideas other than democracy that will look attractive to you. For you can see that it really doesn't split until relatively recently. Finally, with the GM plants, there's one left. There's about 8,000 General Motors employees still left in Flint at this point. And they really do, along with the Tennessee Healthcare Center, provide most of the economic activity. There has not been, they've been trying to seed it in terms of the Mott Foundation, the Crim Foundation, others, to try to seed small businesses, see what happens using more of a Grand Rapids model. And it, for the most part, just has not taken yet. So it's declining per capita income. Grand Rapids is not all that high. We're looking at the city itself, not all of its issues. The gap between the highest and the lowest, it was interesting to me that actually 1940 was a bit more stark than now. And the population by race. So here's Flint in 1940, and you say, well, doesn't some of this have to do with race, diversity, levels of education, ambition, cultural underpinnings, whatever? In 1940, when Flint was doing very, very well, you got 96% white and about 4% African American. Now it's 55%, 5%, and 40%. This gets into something that is difficult to talk about, I think, for a lot of people. People try to lightly around it for reasons of political correctness and other, but in doing this work, we've been collaborating a little bit with Jerry Davis over at the University of Michigan Law School. And he was looking at all what we came up with in terms of Grand Rapids. And he said, when Grand Rapids grows up, it should aspire to be Minneapolis. Because Minneapolis has done very well for a long time. They have lots of private-public partnerships as well. It's larger than us. They have the most privately held companies in the country headquartered there. Quality of life is very high. The same way that Grand Rapids is talked about. It's one of the great places to live. So is Minneapolis. There is a darker side or underbelly to this that people don't talk about. And the criticism is that 60 years ago, Detroit looked like that as well, and was considered to be, as I said, the epicenter of the American dream. So what happens? Is it there's something about diversity that just doesn't work?